Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Friday Night Smackdown review. And Smackdown tonight was, of course, from the Performance Center in Orlando. This was a taped Smackdown because WWE has been doing tape shows because of the whole outbreak, the whole coronavirus that's going on right now. So they got WrestleMania filmed. And they had the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. That's already been filmed, and they taped SmackDown, which we'll probably see next Friday. They've been taping NXT. So WWE has been taping their shows. And from what I heard, WWE rumored that WWE might take a break, and have the superstars go home, be with their families while what's happening in the world right now, of course, with this outbreak. My thoughts on this, if it actually does happen, I think this is good because it could give the people who are on the creative team, time to create new stories and new feuds, new rivalries for the superstars. I think that will be a good idea if they put in this off season, give the superstars a break. If they are forced to do it, because of what's going on. And that's what I heard. It's a rumor right now, but if it does actually take place, my thoughts on that, like I said, I think it's a good idea. So they could come back, they could give us new new stories with feuds, rivalries. But hey, we're talking about WWE here. But SmackDown tonight, as a go-home show, WWE doesn't deliver with their go-home shows anymore. Tonight's show, I thought was very boring. The only thing that I liked about tonight's SmackDown was finally WWE gave us a rerun match that was classic. We had a classic rerun WrestleMania match from WrestleMania 24, which was Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels. That was Ric Flair's retirement match. So that match, of course, very classic. So that was the one thing that I liked, along with the John Cena, Bray Wyatt segment, which I will get to. And we had the reveal in the Mandy Rose and Otis storyline. But let's get on with the SmackDown review for SmackDown's Go Home show for WrestleMania. So SmackDown opened up. It was supposed to be Miz TV. And so the Usos end up coming out. Jimmy and Jay, they came out. They had mics on them. And there was ladders set up in the PC. And, the Usos were getting hyped up. They entered the ring. And we had the New Day come out. So out came Kofi and Big E. And Kofi says he disagrees with the Usos, saying that they would be the ones to snatch the titles at WrestleMania this weekend. Big E ended up saying that the circumstances are unique this year, but it's WrestleMania. and they plan on taking the titles. So we had the Usos and the New Day argue, and out came the Miz and John Morrison. And since this was taped, the Miz went home because he wasn't feeling well. He had 100-degree fever. And I guess this SmackDown was done before the Miz wasn't feeling well and had that 100-degree fever, because they ended up sending him home, and the Miz is basically quarantined. So WWE was just, they were just lazy to, edit that, and it's making people think, oh, the Miz is still going to compete at WrestleMania along with John Morrison. So, but this is all a mess. This is all a disaster. What's going on? I mean, like I said, there was a report that said the Miz went home because he had that 100-degree fever, and now he's quarantined. There was an article, there was a report about it. So the Miz says that he is used to this kind of disrespect, and that they deserve better. Miz ended up saying that these two teams can argue all they want, because the champs will just take a front row to what will happen at WrestleMania. Miz ended up saying they can destroy each other, which will allow them to climb the ladders to retain the titles. So we saw the Miz and John Morrison climb the ladders that were set up on the stage of the PC. And the Miz and John Morrison end up telling both the Usos and the New Day to be jealous. So then we saw both teams, the Usos and the New Day, they end up rushing to the stage. Miz and Morrison end up coming down from the ladders. They end up brawling. And the Miz and John Morrison, they take out Kofi, and they end up taking out, I think it was either Jimmy or Jay with the ladder. And pretty much that was basically that. But having a ladder match at WrestleMania, since Michael Cole ended up announcing that, I'm like, a ladder match is not going to work without a crowd. Because, the ladder matches, they need a crowd. Like when a superstar climbs the ladder, the crowd is hyped. They cheer them on. Without a crowd, it's going to be like, oh, here we go. Either Jimmy Uso or Jay, or Big E, Kofi, or Miz or John Morrison's going to climb the ladder, retrieve the title. I'm like, okay, all right. It's not going to have energy. The match is not going to have energy without a crowd. You need a crowd in a ladder match for when a superstar climbs the ladder and the crowd, cheers them on. You need that energy from the crowd. And whether the match happens tomorrow night or on Sunday night, you're not going to get that. The match is going to feel empty without a crowd. The ladder match will not work without the crowd. And then we had a triple threat match. Tamina Snuka versus Lacey Evans and Naomi. And this was a boring match, my opinion. You had Sasha and Bayley on commentary during the match. Tamina Snuka ended up starting along with Lacey and Naomi. They all go at it. And Tamina Snuka ended up getting some offense early on in the match. Lacey Evans nailed a basement drop kick to Tamina. And Tamina ended up fighting off Lacey Evans, tosses Lacey next to Naomi on the ring apron. Tamina ended up knocking both Lacey and Naomi out to the floor. And towards the end of the match, you had Bayley ends up again on the ring apron. Naomi ends up sending Bayley back down off the apron. Naomi then turns around. Tamina ends up laying the super kick to Naomi. There you go. Tamina Snuka ends up winning the match. Whatever. Then post-match, Bayley comes into the ring and she keeps talking to Tamina. Bayley ended up offering, her hand for Tamina to shake. We end up hearing Bayley say that she's proud to have Tamina in the match at WrestleMania, and that it's good to have her back. So Tamina shakes Bayley's hand. Bayley was, kept on mocking Tamina. Tamina ends up dropping Bayley with a super kick. Sasha comes in, tends to Bayley. And Tamina then takes Sasha, delivers a Samoan drop to Sasha. And that was basically that. But match was terrible. Like, you give a easy win to Tamina. Did you all care that Tamina won the match? I certainly didn't. So, moving on. We saw Tucker of Heavy Machinery. He was talking to Mandy Rose backstage. And all we see is these words in big letters over the screen say, "The truth will be heard." So that's what we saw. And then Michael Cole on commentary said that Tucker will be facing Dolph Ziggler later on. Yeah, like that's going to be an entertaining match. And then we had a rerun classic WrestleMania match. And this match was a classic. It was emotional. And it was from WrestleMania 24, back in 2008. Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels. It was Ric Flair's retirement match. And 12 years later, this match, still a classic, still emotional. And, seeing Shawn Michaels there at the end, where before he's going for the Sweet Chin Music, he says to Flair, "I'm sorry, I love you." And then he delivers the super kick, goes for the cover. Just that right there was just very emotional. And then when the bell rang, you saw Shawn Michaels. He had his head down to Flair. He looked like he was saying something to Ric Flair. Flair was in there, emotional. Just everything about that match was amazing. I remember watching that match live on pay-per-view, and it was just amazing. It's one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. And that happened in Orlando. That happened at the Florida Citrus Bowl, and that is now called Camping World Stadium, which WrestleMania 33 was last there. So, but that was just an amazing match. I mean, if you guys haven't checked out that match between Flair and Shawn Michaels, definitely give that match a watch. Like I said, one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. And then the crowd gave that ovation for Flair at the end. You see Flair, hugging his family. That was just an amazing match. One of my favorite matches. And then after that, we went from seeing that amazing match again to seeing the video recap of what happened to Elias and Corbin. So did we really need to see this again? So Michael Cole was like, he was wondering if Elias will be able to compete against Corbin at WrestleMania. I don't even want to see the match to begin with. That match does not scream WrestleMania worthy. It was just thrown onto the card. It was just WWE throwing a random match on the card, and it's just a way to get each of their superstars all on WrestleMania. That's it. They just want to get everyone on WrestleMania. I don't even want to see the match to begin with, like I said. The match doesn't scream WrestleMania worthy or a quality match for WrestleMania. And then Michael Cole then announced that Braun Strowman will be facing Goldberg at WrestleMania. So Strowman will be replacing Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns ended up backing out because, of course, of his health. But there was no mention. WWE did no mention as to why Roman backed out of the match. We all know it because Roman ended up posting a video on his Instagram. And, we all saw it. And WWE took no sense into explaining that, which was awful. It's terrible on their part. How do you not explain why Roman backed out of the match? Very lame way to not explain why Roman backed out of the match. So then we saw, after that, we saw Tucker and Otis backstage. Tucker ends up seeing Mandy Rose earlier, and he thinks that Mandy was just being nice when Mandy asked about Otis. And he said that he thought she was headed to Dolph's room, the Dolph's dressing room, or locker room. So Otis ends up getting a text message. And Otis rushes off. And he didn't even tell Tucker where he was going. And Tucker ends up asking, what about the match? And so Smackdown went to a commercial. Then when Smackdown came back, we had Dolph Ziggler versus Tucker. Match was We had the match start, and both of them went at it. Tucker ended up getting the early advantage on Dolph. He ended up working on Dolph while Dolph was down on the canvas. And the match ended with Dolph raking Tucker's eyes. And he ends up delivering a zigzag on the bottom part of the ring steps to Tucker. Referee ends up calling for the bell, so match ends in a disqualification. So after the match, Dolph Ziggler, he was smiling. He was standing at ringside. And Dolph ends up grabbing one of the other half of the ring steps. He goes to slam them onto Tucker. And we see Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville come out. Mandy was screaming for Dolph to stop. Otis then ended up running out. And we see glitches on the screen. And the "Truth Will Be Heard" message pops back up on the screen. So we see a man was sitting in the control room in front of security cameras. And the guy turns around. We don't see his face. And he had told us the truth will be heard. So this mystery man ends up pressing a play button. And we see the security camera video from Valentine's Day. You know, when Otis and Mandy, you know, were going to go on that Valentine's date. And the video showed Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville backstage. They were talking about Otis and the date. You know, Mandy was telling her about the date with her and Otis that was supposed to happen. You know, we all know that. And then Dolph ended up coming in. Otis got crushed and walked out. You know, making us really feel bad for Otis. So Mandy Rose said Otis is big and that he's super sweet. So Sonya ended up supporting the date for Mandy to go on the date with Otis. So Mandy Rose is shown walking out. Sonya then picked up her phone. And Sonya, we find out that Sonya was the one sending that text message to Otis. And Otis, we see Otis receive the text message and he replied. And the security camera showed Sonya deleting the text from Otis. And Mandy Rose was shown there. She was shocked at Sonya for doing that. Sonya is then pleading to Mandy. And we also saw footage of Dolph and Sonya backstage on that same day. They were conspiring together against Mandy Rose and Otis going on the date. And they wanted to get what they both wanted. So the glitches go off, and the mystery man controlling that footage in the control room, in the production control room, was gone. Now we just see Sonya ends up begging Mandy to understand. Mandy Rose ended up looking at everyone. She walked up the ramp to the back. Sonya ended up following. Otis ended up chasing Dolph Ziggler, knocks him down, you know, at the bottom of the ramp. Dolph ended up kept on running away. Otis ended up staring him down. Otis then walked back, checked on Tucker, and pretty much that was basically that. But it was predictable. We all knew that Sonya was the one doing that. A lot of people thought it was Tucker. A lot of people thought it was Tucker that was sending those text messages. But in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely Sonya. There you go. There's your reveal. Sonya Deville was the one behind this all. And then when Smackdown came back from the commercial, Mandy Rose was walking backstage. Sonya was behind her, trying to make her case to Mandy Rose, and Mandy didn't want to hear it, so she kept on walking. So that was that. Then we had Daniel Bryan versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And Daniel Bryan came out with Drew Gulak. And, of course, Daniel Bryan's going to be taking on Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, whether that be tomorrow night or on Sunday night. We all know WWE did not release an official card for the two nights, seeing like the matches that we're going to see tomorrow night and the matches that we're going to see on Sunday night. But it would have been good if WWE were to release that, because we don't know what matches are taking place tomorrow night or on Sunday night. But Daniel Bryan versus Nakamura. Nakamura came out, of course, with Sami Zayn and Cesaro. Bell rang. Both guys went at it. Sami Zayn was on commentary, which was entertaining as always to hear from Sami Zayn on commentary, along with, with Michael Cole. And Drew Gulak was looking on from the floor. Daniel Bryan took control of the match, ended up working on Nakamura while Nakamura was down. Nakamura ended up fighting back against Daniel Bryan, but he ran into a drop kick from Daniel Bryan. Nakamura went out to the floor. Daniel Bryan then kicked him into the barricade. Daniel Bryan was shown, taunting at Sami Zayn, and the match ended in a disqualification because Daniel Bryan locked in the yes lock on Nakamura. Cesaro came to the ring, broke up the yes lock, and that caused the referee to ring the bell and have the cause of disqualification. And then after post match, Gulak and Daniel Bryan got beat down by Cesaro, Sami Zayn, and Nakamura. Daniel Bryan was driven into the announce table. Gulak was launched into the ring steps. Sami Zayn ended up bringing Daniel Bryan back to the ring. Cesaro ended up following with Nakamura. Cesaro hit the neutralizer on Daniel Bryan. Nakamura hit the Kinshasa to Daniel Bryan because Cesaro was holding Daniel Bryan up. And that led to Nakamura hitting the Kinshasa. Sami Zayn was heard talking trash to Daniel Bryan. And Sami ends up telling Cesaro and Nakamura to hold Daniel Bryan up. Sami Zayn delivered a haluva kick in the corner to Daniel Bryan. And that was basically it. But match was, in my opinion. And then we had the final Smackdown segment before WrestleMania. And this was really enjoyable, this whole segment. And it had to do with John Cena and Bray Wyatt. So John Cena came out. He ended up thanking Michael Cole for setting the stage. John Cena ended up bringing up how WWE decided a month ago to continue their shows at the PC without any fans. He ended up saying that it's been a learning curve, but we've gotten through it together. He gives thanks to the fans, and he ends up saying it's led us to these final moments before WrestleMania, where everyone is asking, what's really going to happen? What's really going to happen is WrestleMania for these two nights are going to suck. WrestleMania this year is going to fucking suck. I mean, look at the build. Look at the build. This whole build for this WrestleMania, fucking terrible. Now, with the pandemic happening, it got more terrible. This WrestleMania was cursed this year. I can sense that for the whole year so far. WrestleMania in this whole year is cursed. So yeah, that's what's going to happen, Cena. So you end up saying that tomorrow night, a most epic broadcast will air. Yeah, most epic. Definitely not going to be most epic. He said it's going to be the most viewed WrestleMania in history. It's going to be the most viewed because people are going to tune into WrestleMania and see how it's going to be without a crowd. And Cena said, Cena was like, oh, how do I know this? It's going to be for the first time ever. No one really knows what's going to happen. Of course, WWE is trying to keep the spoilers for WrestleMania from getting out. So Cena says he's been challenged to a Firefly Funhouse match. And no one can tell him what that is. He wanted to say he doesn't even think Bray Wyatt knows. But that's exactly what The Fiend wants. Because The Fiend loves uncertainty. He ended up saying that uncertainty leads to fear. And fear can lead to panic. And panic leads to collapse. He ends up saying that The Fiend thrives off uncertainty and has dominated the landscape off fear and panic. So Cena ended up saying, here we are on the eve of WrestleMania, staring into uncertainty, asking what happens next. He ended up saying that he was here tonight to tell us what happens next. Cena went on to say that he will not panic. And he says he sure as hell isn't afraid. And he will squash Bray Wyatt to finish what he started 6 years ago. Of course, mentioning their WrestleMania 30 match that they had, which people said that the match ended up killing Bray Wyatt. And Cena says he doesn't care where it's at because Bray Wyatt isn't even on the level below him. He ended up saying anyone who knows him knows what he's capable of and realizes this poor man's Mr. Rogers doesn't stand a chance. And Cena went on, he was talking about how The Fiend, he was ripping on The Fiend, saying Goldberg already exposed The Fiend's weaknesses at Super Showdown, which, we all saw, which Goldberg defeated The Fiend and won the Universal Championship, which was absolutely fucking terrible. So Cena ends up talking about the match, and we hear Ramblin' Rabbit at ringside. And we saw, the other Firefly Funhouse puppets popping up there. And they were all taunting Cena. And Ramblin' Rabbit says he's here. So the lights go down in the PC. And we hear the sound of, the Fiend's arrival. And the Fiend was shown up on the perch in the PC. So we had this awesome stare down between the Fiend and Cena. And then Bray Wyatt appeared behind Cena. He was yelling in Cena's ear, "Let me in." And then Cena ended up jumping. Ended up getting frightened by that. And Bray Wyatt was just shown he was in his Mr. Rogers, sweater. And I thought that was pretty cool how that was done. You had the Fiend on the perch, Bray Wyatt standing there in the ring. That's what's good about, these taped things where they could, edit anything here. But then we saw the lights go back out. Bray Wyatt was no longer in the ring. And Cena was in the ring by himself as SmackDown went off the air. And that was how SmackDown ended. But really enjoyed this whole segment. I like that we saw, the Fiend there, and we had Bray Wyatt standing in the ring behind Cena, scaring Cena. It was good. It was a really good segment between the both of them, and I liked the way how it was done. Yeah, so that's it for the SmackDown review. Show itself was boring. Only thing that I liked about it was, of course, the rerun WrestleMania match between Flair and Shawn Michaels and the John Cena Bray Wyatt segment. Everything else, I couldn't give a shit about. Yes, the Mandy Rose Otis thing with Sonya Deville being behind it all, predictable. But anyways, that's it for the SmackDown review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Make sure to check out the AEW Dynamite review, which I uploaded earlier. If you guys haven't checked that out, definitely give it a watch. And I will see you all tomorrow night for night 1 of WrestleMania, which I'm not even going to be looking forward to. This is going to be Failure Mania for the next 2 nights. And I didn't even do a predictions video for this year's WrestleMania. I mean, why do it? Why do a predictions video? Most of the matches on this card, from Elias and Corbin, Aleister Black, and Bobby Lashley, do I really need to give my predictions on who's going to win those matches? Because I don't care. I don't care about those matches. But next year, for WrestleMania 37, we'll do a predictions video. What I was like, why bother doing a predictions video this year for this WrestleMania? Why? So anyways, that's it for the video. Thank you all for watching. And I will see you all for night 1 of WrestleMania tomorrow night.